Good morning, everyone. My name is Yannis, and today we're going to be talking about exploiting Linux kernel capabilities. The overall agenda is we're going to have an overview of Linux kernel capabilities. We're going to go through, get an understanding of why an attacker would be interested in them. We're going to be looking into different ways to exploit them, as well as some mitigation techniques. A little bit about myself. I'm working as a security engineer on behalf of Control Plane. I spent a few years working as a DevOps engineer before getting into cloud security. I've got a master's degree in advanced security and digital forensics. I'm offensive security certified, and I've spent the last year of my life digging into container security and exploring all different aspects of container security. A little bit about Control Plane. We are a UK-based consultancy, a cloud-native security consultancy, established back in 2017. We are actually a bunch of engineers specializing in cloud, Kubernetes, and containers. We've got clients across government, financial institutions, regulated services. At the moment, we are like 50 plus people. Yeah, and we're looking into expanding further. If you're interested, please feel free to apply. Moving on. So, yeah, before we get into the core of this talk, which is about exploiting Linux capabilities, I appreciate that some people might ask, what are Linux capabilities and what are they actually trying to achieve? Why were they even created? And it's important to take a step back and look into what was happening before they get introduced into the Linux kernel. This happened before kernel 2.2. There were actually two types of processes running within the Linux kernel. They were either privileged, running with a UID 0, or unprivileged, with a non-zero UIDs. The distinction is that the privileged processes, they were allowed to do pretty much anything. There were no restrictions whatsoever. On the other side, the unprivileged processes, they were not allowed to do anything. They had all sorts of restrictions applied to them. However, from Linux kernel 2.2 onwards, there was some magic that was introduced into the Linux kernel. And this is what Linux capabilities are. There's a few of them, actually. It's not just the ones I've listed here. The way I'd like to think about Linux capabilities is like little magic tricks, maybe some pieces of wisdom, maybe, I don't know. Whatever. And what they actually are is all the privileged processes, they got split into distinct units. And whatever a process might require, we can just proceed and assign specific privileges to a process. So as an example, let's say that a specific process needs to change the ownership of a file, or set specific UIDs or group IDs, or change do some stuff around the network within the server. We can then assign the specific Linux capability and give the process the ability to fulfill its purpose and proceed. This is just a few of them, actually. If you want to have a look at the full list of Linux capabilities, please go to this URL. It's the Linux man page, and includes pretty much all the capabilities available. So also we need to understand how we will be able to work with Linux capabilities as soon as we get onto a host. The first action we would like to do, we should be able to identify any capabilities, any system-wide capabilities. There are some built-in tools for working with capabilities within Linux. One of them is Kappa-Shades, which is actually a wrapper for interacting with capabilities on the Linux host. We can also identify capabilities associated with specific system binaries. For this purpose, we should be able to use getcap, which is another tool for interacting with Linux capabilities. And as we can see here, we've got the Python executable, which has been assigned with the capsysadmin capability. Another method for identifying capabilities associated either with binaries or processes is by looking at the status file of the process itself. In this specific instance, we are looking at a process with a PID 1, which is actually the core process of a container. And there are different categories of capabilities described here. The first one is inherited. It is capabilities that, that the process inherits from something else. And permissive, effective. I'm just going to have to be a bit quicker. So yeah, from an attacker's point of view, as soon as someone gets access to a container or a Linux host, there are specific things that he will be able to do, or he would like to do actually. He would start actually enumerating enumerating the host, looking for open ports, unrestricted access to files, any way to exploit any executables or services, or maybe set up some reverse or bind shells. And for containerized environments, in particular, he should be looking for ways to escape the container. And one of the scariest things is that capabilities provide this all these options to an attacker. So yeah, he would be able to take advantage of them. So it would only make sense to go through some demos. I'm not gonna lie, I was planning to do some live demos, but due to lack of time, most likely I'm gonna be going through some recorded ones, or maybe 1 second also. Let me just bring this here. Wait. Oh, come on. Anyway, let's have a look at that. Come on. Is this clear, actually? Yeah. One second, please. Cool. Anyway, I'm just going to provide a description of what's going on here. This is an attempt to abuse the capsys module capability, which is a capability that allows an attacker to insert kernel modules into the host kernel. What we do actually after identifying the IP of the host that we would like to send the reverse shell to and the port, we inject actually the the module into the Linux kernel, and after executing, after injecting the module into the kernel, this is how the reversal gets triggered. Yeah. Let me just have a look at the next one. Okay, looks like we are running out of time. Anyway, I'm just going to go through. There's certainly loads of things that you can achieve with Linux capabilities, and you can drop and add firewall rules. You can set UIDs. You can elevate your privileges. You can set up bind shells. You can do all sorts of stuff, and yeah, I guess whoever sets these up, they're going to have to be particularly careful with whatever they're using. Where is it? So, with regards to mitigating these issues, as I've said, security contexts for the win. Security contexts are like, let's call them firewalls for any containerized environments or Kubernetes-based environments. It would be nice to, as a rule of thumb, to drop everything by default and keep only the ones required. It might be a bit tricky to identify which ones are required by its pipeline, executable process, or whatever you're planning to run. And there is an amazing tool developed by Aqua Security, which is called Tracy, which is based on eBPF, and yeah, it's aimed towards analyzing events and detecting any sort of suspicious behavior. But yeah, actually it's out of the scope of this talk. Wrapping up, just a couple of recommendations. I would definitely advise anyone who wants to dive deeper into Linux capabilities and ways to exploit them to look into Liz Rice's book on container security. There's a few examples included. On top of that, I would advise anyone to have a look at hacking Kubernetes. This goes a bit further, but there are some stuff included related to Linux capabilities as well. However, there are some stuff as well on pod security, on anything related around security on Kubernetes. And this was actually written by our CEO, the control plane CEO, Andrew Martin, and also as well. Thank you very much for attending. It's actually my first talk, so yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit stressed. Any questions whatsoever? Yes.
I've got a mic. Here we go.
Hello. Just wanted to know, have you had any success with implementing this particular exploit against modern Linux kernels? Or as
Sorry?
Sorry?
Can you please repeat your question?
Yep. So, have you had any success with trying to implement this particular privilege escalation or exploit against modern Linux kernel?
Yes. To be honest, the particular use case, and this is how I got into this actually, was part of a workflow for securing Tecton pipelines. Part of the requirements was to verify how secure are the pipelines and whether they could actually be exploited. We were able to exploit anything that was running within these Tecton pipelines by using these ways. We were able to trigger reverse shells or even set up bind shells, or maybe even inject stuff into host processes. Yeah, it's. Have you got any particular use case that you were unable to implement it? Have you got any specific example? I'm just trying to think. In any case, we've done this research quite recently, and all this was applied against modern Linux kernels. Yeah, look like they're kicking us out. Any other questions? Yeah.
Time for one more, I think.
Hi, I was wondering, when it comes to sort of Kubernetes and Docker and things like that, quite often you'll find clients who have a Docker container that they know needs some additional capabilities, but they don't know which ones. And quite often they just have no choice but to turn everything on because the supplier of the container just hasn't told them what capabilities it needs. Have you got any recommendations for how they can sort of investigate and find out what the minimum set is?
Actually, yeah, I just quickly jumped through it. I would definitely advise anyone using Tracy. This is an example of how we used it to identify capabilities during runtime. As I said, we were executing pipelines within Tecton, and we had to quickly identify what capabilities are required and what's being used internally. And what this actually does, it's actually keeping an eye for any new containers that are popping up. And it's outputting the capabilities. As you can see here, it's tracing for capability-related events. And it's outputting anything that it's finding to JSON3.log. And it's an eBPF-based executable, and that's why it has specific requirements, like you're going to have to run it as in privileged mode. You also have to map a few stuff within the container just to allow the eBPF-related modules to compile initially. This is what we were using, actually, in this particular use case.
Cool. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Thank you, Yannis. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.